Welcome back to our coaching network. I am Pat Curran here, one of the co-founders. Tonight, we are talking applying DB technique to different coverage. Coach Shane Gaines, Merrimack corners coach and Nichols coach. Shane, I appreciate you jumping on with us tonight.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, man.
Of course. I was going to say one thing before you start. Anyone who's watching, any questions, thoughts, feel free to either unmute yourself, jump and ask the question, or pop it in the chat box. Shane, the floor is yours, sir. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys. I got a dual screen, so I would kind of be looking at my screen and then talking to my desktop. But I'm Shane Gaines here to introduce myself, guys. Corners and Nichols coach here. So the way our outfit works, I coach our two corners, field and boundary, and then I coach our safety who spins down and plays, some different man, some different zone stuff for us. Then we have a free safeties coach, Coach Smith. So I coach those kind of three positions. So you'll hear me talk a little bit about some outside corner stuff and then some slot stuff, which is really like another corner for us. But we call them a rover. We treat them as more of a nickel. So I'll get into that, applying it to different coverages and different outfits of things that, we got going on. All right, so this is me, guys that may know, guys that may not know. Let's talk about where I've been in my experience. I graduated college in 2018 from Salisbury University, Division III school on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. I'm a Baltimore native guy, went to Owens Mills High School, went to Shepherd out of high school and transferred to Salisbury where, I played safety for 3 years, and in my final year played corner. So that's what got me into the D-back world of coaching the secondary guys. But I started there in 2019 under Coach Sherman Wood, head coach and defensive coordinator, Rob Des-Bennett. After that, went into start my GA in 2020 at American International College. Obviously, we had COVID, so we weren't able to play a season. 2021, finished my GA at Shippensburg, where I coached the DBs and worked with special teams as well. Did some recruiting coordinating stuff, assisting my guy Anthony Johnson over at who's at Lafayette now. And then 2022 to 2023, just that season of 2022 and the spring of 2023, I got my first full-time job at Susquehanna University, top 25 Division III program in Central PA, where I coached the corners and safeties. Assisted me was Malcolm Henry. He did a pretty good job too. Now Slippery Rock. Worked with Pat Ruley there and Tom Perkovich, where I was a pass game coordinator, did some special teams, and did some defensive recruiting coordinator stuff as well. And then most recently, before the start of 2024, I was at Edinboro University with my guy, Tony Papley, where I coached the corners and safeties as well. So as soon as I jumped off the porch and started coaching, man, I was coaching corners and safeties. And, sometimes I go back and forth and say, it's a lot to do without an assistant. And then sometimes, I try to uniform it and do my thing to do them both. But, it definitely was a good jump for me in my career to have an opportunity to do both and kind of develop my style from doing both. My philosophy jumping into it with DBs. The highlighted stuff is mostly like the one word buzzwords that I put onto the guys, but, always giving max effort. Never compromise the discipline. So when we talk about the technique, guys may know a lot of things or see a lot of things. And I get some of my players who see guys on TV that ask about doing certain techniques and certain things. And I talk more about the discipline of doing what we're coaching and doing what we practice over top of you trying to compromise for what may feel comfortable. And if something feels comfortable, we'll have that time to work on in the practice and make my guys feel more comfortable within themselves to play as fast as they can and compete. I go to camps, I do all these things, and sometimes guys may not have the best technique, but I want to see them compete at the line of scrimmage, compete within a route, and then obviously compete at the top of the route. Punish the football, something that, I picked up throughout my career of going to different places, is the football is the program. So when we tackle people, when we breaking on top of routes, when we doing different things like that, we want to punish the football, whether that's tackling the football, whether that's punching out the football after the catch, or it's we coming up as a second man or the first man, tackling and stripping the football. And is as old as one of the oldest rules in the books is do your 111th. I want a guy that's going to do his job. If you're a third player, be a third player. Don't be a robot, but I want you to do your job. So that's kind of the philosophy and standard that we set here and that I've tried to set every place I've been is to be predicated on effort, discipline, competing, punishing the football, and doing our job. And then my teaching progression. I use a lot of wise tales, a lot of sayings, and my guy Kyle make fun of me sometimes for big words I use at times and things like that, and different analogies I use. But everything is better with time, in my opinion. Technique, instinct, malicious intent, and eye discipline. Those are like the foundations of the intangibles of a defensive back that I look for and that I try to instill with them. And, I try to build myself and predicate myself up being a technician, but also being a guy that can teach my guys more so about the full scheme of a defense after we take our time and get better with things. So the instinct, obviously, that's the things that we can do within the game of us knowing what we have to do in the playbook, where we're supposed to be, film study, and have an instinct to make plays. I like malicious guys. I like the physical corners. I heard Deion Sanders talk about, I don't really need my corners to tackle. Well, I need mine to. I need my guys to tackle. I need them to be physical. We need to set blocks. A lot of guys doing nub trips. I need my guy to set the edge, on that nub tight end and do all those things. And obviously having the eye discipline. A lot of the times when we talking technique, different DB guys in every position, it's about putting our eyes in the right place. So that's something that I try to do, is teach those guys. And then more so when I talk about teacher progression, it's about that 1, 2, 3 on the side, which I'm doing with you guys here now, everybody that's tuned in. I'm teaching you on the board and in the meeting. Right now we're in the meeting, we're on the board. So if I can teach you there and you can understand it there, we should be able to have a better idea, a better understanding of executing an individual drill, or individual period. And then the practice or the game. Practice and game is hand in hand for me. If you can do it in practice, you can do it in the game. I know a lot of times if I go back and look at my tape and you guys go back and look at your own tape, you probably made a lot of exciting plays in practice that you may not made in the game, but it put you in position to maybe not get that play to you or make a play that you made in practice. So that's the type of deal. And if I can get you to translate everything I taught you in number 1 to number 3, I'm doing a good job and you doing a good job of meeting me halfway as coach to player ratio on being successful. All right, the techniques that I teach through and through. I don't have 5 or 6 different press moves, anything like that. I'm a motor guy to start with. And then we jump to a peer as a counter. And then in the red zone goal line, we have what I call a clear step to keep it similar to the peer step, which we'll get into, not to talk so much detail because I want to show you guys more so with film so you understand. I'm sure a lot of guys know motor, peer, and clear, but this is what I feel has been successful for my guys. I would never tell any other coach he's wrong or that I'm right or anything. I'm here to learn and be more efficient. So if guys got, things that they want to help me with, definitely feel free to reach out and things. But catch man in the slot, scooch in the slot, and then what I call a screw technique because of how we play it. It's not just off man to me, but the way we play it. I want to give it a name so guys know and try to be catchy and try to use buzzwords for guys to know. But the way I teach my off man is all screw technique stuff. With screwing my cleats in the ground and doing those different things. And we'll talk about that in a second. My teaching progression overall, outside of the board, the meeting, the individual in the game, is I teach sniper eyes. I want sniper eyes. I want efficient feet. I want direct hips. I want register hands. And I want guys that want to compete. And when I talk about those things, obviously, people know what a sniper is half of the time. Most of the battle is him having correct eyes or him or her having good eyes. Being efficient with your feet, making sure I'm taking proper steps. I'm not breaking with 2 feet in the ground at the same time. I'm not peer stepping or doing any type of moves with 2 feet at the ground at the same time. What I ask my players is if I have 2 feet in the ground at the same time and I'm trying to transition somewhere, that's not a break, that's a jump. So I want guys to understand that we need efficient feet, direct hips. My hip angle's got to be in the right spot. You'll see me talk a little bit about that through Indy and different drill work. And register hands, making sure I understand that if I'm peer stepping or I'm kicking left or doing anything like that, I'm an offhand jam guy. So I shouldn't be shooting the same hand at the direction that I'm going. If I'm shooting that hand, the other hand better be coming with me because I got a good enough base and range to stay on top and shoot 2 hands. And obviously to want to compete. All right, so talking about the man tech and phases. So when I do drill work, and as we talking about applying the drills and the techniques and the scheme, this is how I break my drills down. I know people have different things where they have developers, they have, blocking, destruction, and tackling, and all those things. When it comes to technique here of how I teach it and how I put it in my practice plan, I go off phases. So you may see my practice plan and my DC head coach will see phase 4. And then, obviously I got the job here. He's seen what I do in my interview. He knows that phase 4 is what it says right here, the crossover run, the turn, the run, and so forth. Phase 1, I know we talk a lot about not false stepping at the line of scrimmage, not stepping with the wrong foot, not hopping out of the stands. To me, that's a whole drill. That's, a minute of a drill period or 30 seconds of a drill period, which you'll see is just activating that proactive movement. Or if you're more of a reactive press technique type of guy, your phase one is teaching that your drill period or that drill segment is teaching that pair step, teaching that motor, or teaching whatever reactive movement you're doing. And then as you see going through the different phases, you'll see reading the leverages phase two, getting hands on collecting, not taking the charge. In my mind, if everybody likes to use wordplay and we like to use word association, in basketball, when I take a charge, my feet are stopped and I'm just standing there taking the charge. In football, we're not taking the charge. We're collecting the route because we got to continue to play it. So I know it, the wordplay for my guys who are former basketball players and do different things like that. I don't want you to think to stop your feet and take the route. I want you to collect the route with your hand, with your feet, with your hips, with your hands, and take them where you want them to go based off leverage. Phase three, we want to get into that 45 kick, that punch, that crossover run. I say that all the time. Any guy I've coached know that I'm a 45 kick punch crossover run. And I say it fast because that's how I reiterated to the guys. Once I read his leverage, once he declares where he's going, and I'm able to stay square because I didn't get a speed release, and I got, a one-step release, and he's within my frame, that phase three is a 45 kick punch crossover run, again, which we'll see in film. Then I'm getting into the route with the phase four. I'm crossover run to turn and run, which is two different things to me, which we'll see because it's based off of the angle of my hips, like I mentioned before. And then transitioning in and out of breaks is phase four. And then phase five is playing the top of the route, which I know a lot of guys do, where we may do a look and lean drill. We may do an out of phase drill where I'm playing through the hands. That's phase five to me, where I'm playing through the hands. I'm looking and leaning. I'm going up and getting the football. The break point of breaking down 45, breaking down 80, breaking 135 to turn and run on the go ball. That's phase four to me. So that's kind of how I break it all down. And my guys understand that too. And they'll sit there and say, Coach, I know I messed up on this rep, phase three. I know I messed up in phase four. I know I messed up in phase five, and so on. And trying to get them to understand, and from a coach's perspective, so they can speak back to me when we're coaching them up. And then understand the positioning. This is how I break it down in phases. If I'm in his hip or I'm on top. When I first show my guys this, they're like, Coach, this drawing is backwards. It ain't backwards because I coach defense. So when we looking at the board, we're going this way as a defensive back. So that's how I made this diagram is if I'm on top of the receiver or I'm in his hip, I'm in phase, which means I can look and lean and become the receiver. I'm out of phase if I'm on the bottom hip. And I'm able to play through the hands and do all those things as you see right here. I may be on the bottom hip and trail. I'm a step or less playing through the hands. If I'm two steps behind, I'm doing all that. I know people work that from time to time of where they, have a receiver a couple steps behind and do all that stuff to try to get back in out of phase or in phase, which I agree with. But if I'm beat, I'm beat. I got to go, bust my tail to try to get back to the hip, and hopefully the band ain't playing already on the touchdown. So that's kind of my philosophy on it. Try not to be gray and be black and white with in phase, out of phase, or beat in that regard. Not going to read a bunch of this phase five as I talk about. So that was really phase four, as you saw. But if I'm in phase five, so I look and lean, I high point the football. Driving out of the break with my eyes on wide receiver here on number 2, so we can put our wrist in his pocket, snap my eyes to the string. There's a string, imaginary string from the ball to the quarterback. We got to try to get in between that. When we playing in phase five, I want to flash my hands and catch the football if I can. Again, if I'm out of phase, I'm on the bottom hip. I want to match the wide receiver hands. Look through the wide receiver chest and play through the hands. You see that a lot of time in the red zone, or if I'm out of phase on the go ball, or if I'm playing the box fade and I'm getting that ball to the bottom of the numbers. I don't like to swipe at the football. If I could go through and do a compilation of how many times guys swiped at the football and miss, you will see a very high percentage of us missing the football when we swiping at the football. I like to put my hand in just like a volleyball player when they jump up. And when somebody try to spike, they're not swiping at the ball. They putting their hands up and, letting the ball hit their hands, and they're doing what they're doing from there. If I'm out of phase 2 and I get a guy that may catch the ball because I'm in the bottom hip, he may have a contested catch. What we call a post catch, which we work and drill all the time, is I'm on that bottom hip. My eyes is on the receiver's hands. He catches the ball contested. I want to rake at the football, whether I'm punching through. I'm not swinging at the ball. I'm punching through the pocket that he made to catch the football. and I'm ripping at the football once I get my hand in, if I can get my hand in the pocket. If I can't get my hand in the pocket, I'm punching at the pocket where the football eventually will be. So that's how we teach and play in phase 5 in our technique. And going over the techniques real quick, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I'll go over it through too with the video. But motor technique, I want to align 1 to 1.5 yards away from the wide receiver. I want to split his number. I kind of teach that almost like guys teach D-line, where you have a 2 and 2-eye based off the leverage of the body and of the receiver. I used to be like inside eye on his inside eye or outside eye on his inside eye, but I see a lot of times where we get in speed releases and guys trying to run away. I honestly want to be a little bit closer to my leverage as head up as I can. I don't want to be head up, but again, I want to be in a 2-eye kind of perspective, like a defensive line would, to try to put that in perspective for you guys to see before we actually get to the video. My stance, I want my feet to be shoulder width to outside, slightly outside of my shoulders. Underneath the armpits would be ideal, but I have guys that's 5'9" that like their stance a little bit tighter, but I want them to be no tighter than shoulder width because I'm more powerful to be able to kick lateral and kick 45 when I had a little bit of a wider base. I want my knees bent at 45. You'll see it a little bit here too. My knees bent at 45 in a quarter squat stance, my back at 45. You don't have to have your hands up stiff like a robot, but I want them above the waist, ready to go. My key is on the man. My eyes between the number and the belt buckle. I want to read that pelvic hip rotation. So when I talk about that, I mean his hips are pointing 45, which means he's going in a certain direction. It could be either a stem or it could be him declaring where he's going. And I want to find a hip and fall in love with it. Obviously, it's going to be the near hip depending on my leverage. If I got a condensed split, maybe his outside hip. If I'm in his inside hip, it's his inside hip. Just like we teach the tackling, I want to teach him trailing and tracking the hip just as such, to try to get it to translate and make sense going forward. For this, again, my proactive movement, I want to take educated 6-inch motors back, vertical, matching the wide receiver tempo. I want to be 45-degree angle kick backwards. That's my response toward the leverage, because I may get stemmed inside. So I may kick 45 inside, and then he may stem me and go back outside. And then I want to continue the 45 kick punch crossover run once he declares that he's going inside or outside. As you see right there, 45 kick punch crossover run. So again, I'll leave this here real quick, and then we'll pop to the next one. Peer step, similar things in the beginning. The alignment is the same. The stance is the same. The key is the same. We still are 1 to 1.5 yards away. Our stance is the same. Our eyes is on the same thing. It's on the man. We on that, reading that pelvic rotation, find a hip and fall in love with it. Obviously, if I'm inside leverage, it's the inside hip. If I'm outside leverage, it's the outside hip, depending on what your coverage is, what your divider rules tell you, and so forth, based on your defense. Again, now my response is different. I want to take an educated, which means I'm not hopping 2 steps. Remember, my educated feet is always pick it up, put it down, never have 2 feet coming out of the ground at the same time. Take that 6-inch lateral step away from your leverage. So if I'm outside leverage, I'm going to step away from my leverage. So I'm taking the 6-inch lateral step inside. If I'm inside leverage, I'm taking that 6-inch step lateral away from my leverage outside. And then based off of that, like we did the 45 kick in the motor, we want to take a shuffle step to match his stem. So if I get him come to balance, he steps outside to try to stem me. I should be taking the shuffle step replace outside, and then I'm 45 kick punch crossover run if he declares inside. If he declares outside, I continue the 45 kick punch crossover run outside. And then my punch is dictated on his leverage point. Whether he's running straight down my chest, I shoot 2. If he's attacking one of my shoulders, I shoot 1. If I get a speed release, I got to kick and go, which obviously is no hands in that regard. And talking about catch, I'm 1 yard inside leverage, 5 yards deep from the wide receiver. Depending on your defense, I could be 5 to 7. Some guys at 5, some guys at 6, some guys at 7. Sometimes the leverage depends on the down and distance. For me, if it's 3rd and 3, we 3 yards. If it's 3rd and 4, we're 4 yards, and so forth and so forth if you're playing that catch. If it's 3rd and 10, obviously you have that fluctuation to be between 5 to 7, but we want to base it off down the distance. The stance is similar to a corner. The feet slightly outside of shoulder width, a quarter squat stance, back at 45, arms relaxed, all the same thing on my stance. My eyes is on the man. I want to read that pelvic rotation. I want to find a hip and fall in love with it, like I said. On the snap too, I teach peer step in this as well at times, depending on the guys have the option to do that, to activate their feet. So in this peer step for those guys in the slot is just activating their feet, making sure we're not stuck in quicksand. So I want to activate my feet, whether that's getting on the balls, being ready to push lateral or drive on 3-step. And again, that activation of the feet could be a peer step. I want to match his base, just like I told the corner when he's reading that pelvic rotation. If his hips are 45, well, I got to start shuffling or I got to start kicking based off of the stem I got. If he's running hips 45, well, I got to kick or shuffle outside 45. If he's stemming me inside, well, I got to do the same thing, whether I'm kicking, shuffling inside, getting ready to get back to the catch point. Unless I'm getting a deep over route, then my kick will turn into a 45 crossover to get to that shoulder, and vice versa with a box fade. If I'm getting that vertical stem and running away from me, well, I got to kick and go, similar to a speed release of a corner. And if I get to him running straight down my chest, I want to collect the receiver, shoot my hands in boxing range. I don't want to shoot my hands if my feet cross. So if he does stem me and he gets to my catch point and he wants to run away from me, I cannot sit there and try to get my hands on with my feet cross, especially if I'm catching at 7 or I'm scooching and catching at 9 or 10, because he's already at the break point. I'm trying to collision him with my feet cross. Well, I'm going to get snapped off because I have 1 foot in the ground while my feet cross with 1 foot in the ground while I'm trying to make contact. So I never want to put my hands on and try to be physical with my hands crossed, with my feet crossed, because that's when I may get knocked off my stem or knocked off my collision. And then same thing as the corner, when I get hands on a wide receiver, I want a 45 kick, punch, crossover run, chin down, 2, 1, and none, just as we taught the corner. Not going to spend too much time on this, but scooch is the same. All right, scooch is lining up 6 or 7 deep front of wide receiver. Leverage could depend on coverage. We play an outside leverage outfit here for our inside guys. Again, depending on coverage, depending on pressure, anything like that. Like we line up outside leverage, or we could tell them inside leverage if it's a heavy pressure, or we send a 6 or whatever the case may be. Similar stance. Only thing, I'm inside. I could be normal stance to where my feet are square. This year, I wanted to be a little bit more deceptive in the spring with my feet. So I had guys line up in that square stance, and their scooch turned into them picking up that inside foot and turned it into a scooch, where I used to be, we're lining up in that inside foot back, outside foot up. But it kind of gave it away what type of technique we were playing. So guys kind of changed it up and went square stance and then went to that scooch position. But on a snap, I'm taking 2 scoots through the 3-step. I don't want to scoot just a scoot. I want to base my tempo off the receiver. If he's burning off the line of scrimmage, my scoot's going to be a little faster. If he's trying to stem me or he's giving me a walk-off release, which you see at times, then my scoot is based off of that. When I want to clear that 3-step to the scoot, I may have to drive on an under route or a flat route or a slant route. But if he's pushing me vertical within my scoot and I'm at 6 to 7, I'm probably at the top of the route, on top of the catch point. So I want to square up, and then we playing normal catch rules, as we mentioned before. And my purpose of why I do this, as you see below, is to give the DB enough leverage on top of the wide receiver that I can catch it at the top of the route. So there's no more dancing in the route. There's no more him trying to stem me if I'm scooting. He has to get into that route, and he has to either, once he gets to that top of that route, his options are kind of limited. Whereas if I'm at 4 to 5 and he can stem me inside, restack me, and then his route tree is still wide open, I can catch him at the top of that route and keep it going. All right, so I'm gonna get to
Coach Gaines. I got a question about your press techniques.
Yes, sir.
Which one do you prefer if the receiver's off the ball?
Yeah, so that is going to be, to me, that's going to be more of a peer step, which we'll get into here, but off the ball, more of a peer step outfit, or depending on who that is, you can dictate your technique based off of that. But I kind of would settle them to be more of peer with the guy off the line of scrimmage. But if guys comfortable, I got guys that are more motor guys, then we tight it motor and treat it like scoot off the ball, or treat it like scooch for the guys when they're off the ball.
Gotcha.
And Coach, I got a question. So you said for the scooch, like based off the receiver's tempo is whether or not you're putting hands on or you're backpedaling or you're or what? So is that based on or is it always like scooch technique? I'm always going to catch and get hands on, or is it dependent on that receiver's tempo?
Yeah, so when I said the tempo, that's based on that means the speed of my scoop. Because I'm not just, you'll see a lot of times where if I tell a person or I tell a kid that we taking 2 scoots and then we get into the catch, like you may not even push me 5 yards yet, and guys finish their 2 scoots and ready to catch. Well, if you're gonna do that, you might as well just play normal catch. So based off of how fast you're burning off the line of scrimmage, again, if you're trying to run vertical in the slot and you got to go, my 2 scoots are going to be a little bit faster based off of you pushing me vertical up the field. And then off that catch point too, then I settle my feet again at the top of that route based off of, like I said, how fast you're coming out the line of scrimmage. You may be running some type of sail route where you're pushing me lateral first, and you're not trying to burn to go up the field. So my scooch is going to be based off, again, off of your tempo or how fast you burning off the line of scrimmage when I'm doing that. But that's always like a change up for me. Like guys know in our outfit of our defense, like you catch until you're not. You know what I mean? Like I had to come here and explain the scooch and do all that stuff because we like to be physical in the face and do all those things. The scooch is a little bit more passive at times, but that's more of a change up. So, you know, I teach that as a change up for the guys.
Gotcha.
Going into it here, just a little bit of drill work on the motor. So again, I like the let me turn the sound off. I like the cones in between the feet just to keep my feet from not getting too tight. Again, I'm a firm believer if I can't move my feet or I can't push as powerful as I want to, well, my feet too tight underneath my hips. So you see my guy on the 20-yard line here, as he's kicking, his feet are not coming too close into that second kick, is which I want to try to avoid with my feet coming this close, as you see my guy right here. Because when it's time for me, if I was getting a stem here and coming back, I got to take that extra step to get back in the ground to get back to getting on top of the guy or staying within his hip. So you see my guy on the right, you see how tight his kicks are in that motor. His feet are not getting as tight as the guy on the 20 when he's kicking. That's what we want. We want to keep our feet not getting too tight underneath our hips when we're trying to get that kick. Same thing here, you're just seeing that drill work. So this is obviously drill work on the motor. You see these guys trying to keep their feet not too far underneath their hips when they're kicking. You see my guys punching the correct hand, offhand jam, when we kicking and getting outside. So this is just more of an activation for me and me being a look and getting guys' eyes on me. Usually if I'm in, you know, team period or indie period and doing season or doing camp, I got a receiver guy lined up showing me, giving them a look. And then just doing the same thing, pushing through here. So you see the guys doing the same thing. Going to the other side, same thing. You just see guys working the same technique to the other side. So putting that cone there, guys, making sure we shoot the hand and trying to overemphasize every part of what we're doing. Make sure we shooting the hand on every kick. Every time I'm kicking, I should be shooting the hand. Every time I'm motoring, I should have my feet, you know, in that shoulder width. And those guys obviously can base their feet off their comfortability. They don't have to have it like on the edge of the cone or a foot outside the cone. That's based off their comfortability of their feet. Again, seeing the hair, especially my guy to the left doing a good job motoring, and again, basing off the tempo. There's no receiver to give him a tempo. So guys will have a different speed, but usually want to base it off the tempo because I don't want to be motoring, you know, slow like my guy here on the right. If a guy's trying to speed release. And once we get into that, you know, guys pick up speed, and we did this a few times based off of, you know, me going saying 50% half speed, full speed. All right, so that's phase 1 and 2 of the motor. Phase 1 of the pair, just activating the feet. So like I mentioned, just activating the feet. That's all they did. That's the drill. Activate the feet. That's the drill. Activate the feet. That's the drill. Stepping away from our leverage. So inside leverage is to their right. So they're stepping away from their leverage. And again, everybody's step, I don't know ideally, well, every time they make a step, what 6 inches is. I know what's too big. So you see my guy here, he's not, you know, his step may not be as big as other people's, but he's activating his foot and it's not too big. So you see him activating that feet when the receiver coming to balance. Same thing, getting into it. And then now we'll get into the phase 2. So you see me demonstrating it. I'm coming to balance and then I'm stepping to a direction. So you should see now a pair and a 45 and a lateral shuffle. So you'll see them come to balance and then they'll step to stem. And that's it. That's the drill. See a pair step, step to the drill. That's it. And slowing it down a little bit because I want them to feel what it feel like to do it right. As we used to call it, defensive success. So right now, this is a defensive success drill. I want them to feel what it feel like to do it right. Again, line it up to the other side. And obviously this summer period, so like I got time to sit here and do all this stuff with them. And again, this may be a pre-practice drill for you. This may not be like an EDD drill for you, but if you got 5 minutes, 10 minutes before practice where you may not be able to do this small intricacy stuff in practice, you can do this in, you know, your summer period if you, you know, can get that opportunity at a higher level where y'all can get summer work, or if you're a high school team and you got 3 days of practice in the summertime, you have an opportunity, you know, to install these drills. So again, this was good here. My guy in the yellow cleats gave him a little stutter before he went, and you see his feet not getting too tight, not over kicking, and not falling for that head fake inside. So he did a pretty good job on the pier step there, and that's his thing. What I would say is he has the wrong hand, you know, shooting that hand. But what I mentioned earlier is if I do shoot that same hand, I better be bringing this other one with me so my hips can now get to that 45 that I want, and I'm not locking out my hips when it's time to go vertical. Then same thing, activating that pier step. Again, same thing, gave him a little head fake at the top. Didn't fall for that. And being able to kick, his feet got a little tight, as you see. I'm real particular and stickler with those feet getting too tight in the kicks and the 45 kicks. So you see, again, working that pier step to the shuffle and kick there. And then now I'm explaining it too. So now I'm going to pier step. I'm going to give him a stem. And then he's going to go the opposite way. So again, defensive success. I'm letting them know that I'm stemming them right, and then I'm going left. And again, showing them and drilling it for them so they understand, you know, what I got going on for the receiver. So you see them work this. And again, this is all defensive success right now in this period that we working it. See a good job, my guy here in the black shirt, working that pier step, shuffle, punch. Like we talked about, the 45, that pier step, shuffle, punch, and now he's in control. Now he's in control to take him where he want. Even my guy on the right, you see his hand, his elbow cocked back, ready to punch. And we still got this arm free. So when we punch this one and we coming back with the feet here, I can bring this one with me. As you see him do right here, I like the receiver, give him a look to swipe his hand down. We restacking our hands. Punch, restacking the hands, doing a good job. Again, same thing with my guy on the right. Gave you a pier step, a shuffle, a kick now. Once he get them hands on. Got his hands on, now he's in control. And if I'm in this guy in this position, good teaching period for this guy here. If I'm in this position where he is and I'm getting that and he wanted to continue to go this way, his hips are now going to go from lateral to 45 to crossover. Or if I'm getting that speed release running away, I'm going to have to go from lateral to a 45 crossover to a run. And that's something that's huge for me, is getting guys to understand the different angles of a crossover. I don't always have to cross over vertical when I'm getting into a release. Like I can cross over 45 and aim for that top shoulder and let him take my hips vertical, which you'll see here in a second. Fast forward through this so we get to that point. The same thing, working the other way. Pier step, shuffle, punch. We good. Seeing it one more time from this. We saw this already, but working it the other way now. And then now showing them, now I'm doing, if I get a stem and he's going the same way, because I may get a come to balance, I may get a stem, and they may go the same way, what that should look like. So you'll see that here. Let me give them that look. So you see a pier step, shuffle, run. And then now we getting into phase 3 to 4. So I'm getting into that crossover run. but it's a 45 crossover run to let him take my hips vertical. So you'll see that right here. And I'll go in slow-mo so guys see that. 45 hips to vertical hips. And I set them down right there. That's the drill. So we pierce that, we shuffle, we punch, kick, crossover, run, 45 hips. And then now you see his hips go from 45. His hips go from a 45 crossover to a vertical crossover with the depth of the receiver pushing him up the field. And then we just settle here. That's the drill. Yeah, my guy in the white, I would like his hips to be a little less vertical. A little less vertical, as you saw the other guy. His hips are vertical. His hips are not going towards the wide receiver, aiming for this top shoulder, which is the coaching point. I want my hip, if I'm going to get into that crossover, I want to aim for that top shoulder. And as he's going vertical, we got a sideline, so he eventually has to get vertical. I'm aiming for that top shoulder, and it's going to naturally turn me vertical, which I overemphasize in the drill, so we feel what it feel like to actually change the direction of our hips. And that was a better job by him right there. Like my guy in the white, better job by him. 45 hips, get vertical. Bad job by my guy on the right. Bad job. Feet too tight. I feel like that's the stance he wanted to be in, to be a little bit more powerful. So you see him pierce that, and then he steps extra with the outside foot. That's what we don't want. And then now he got the opposite hand on. I can get my hand swiped down and I can get ran by. That's what obviously I don't want. So I use this as a coaching tool for this guy right here. And for him, again, I want to feel that stance out, feel that base out. And a lot of the stuff, like for them, you know, learning the pierce step and doing those things was relatively new. I mean, they did some good things in the past, but, you know, this was relatively, you know, new for him in this regard. So, you know, this is him filling out and trying his deal. It's me being able to show him how his deal is not as effective as the overall deal that we teaching. Okay, obviously phase 5, real quick, going into this, showing them how to cross over to where I can come back downhill on top of routes. So this is just the discipline of it, making sure guys' hips, shoulders, knees, and toes. My hips, my shoulders, my knees, my toes are aligned for success. If I need to push vertical, if I need to push 80, if I need to push 45, or go straight back downhill, I got that opportunity to do that. And disciplining it, I'm having them cross over, I'm having them settle, I'm having them get back in the crossover, and then transitioning, showing a difference between turning and running and crossover running, which is two different things. Crossover run is with my head, shoulders, knees, toes aligned. Turn and run is I know it's a go ball. I can get back into it. I can look and lean and become the receiver. So we seeing that there. Doing it the other way. Again, just getting guys on that line, trying to use the line as an example of how my hips, shoulders, knees, and toes should be aligned. And you see my guy on the right turn into that look and lean. He became the receiver. He knows it's a go ball. Now I become the receiver. I look and lean. Getting into it with a break. So now I'm getting into it with a break. So now I'm driving downhill. I can be a man. I can be in press bail cover 3. I'm getting into that crossover. My head, shoulders, knees, and toes align. If I had a receiver on the line, my eyes would be down on his hip because I'm the key behind the camera. You'll see them looking at me and then being able to plant, point, and drive. Plant, I'm pointing, and I'm driving downhill. I got a plant foot. I got a direct foot. Wherever the direct foot pointing, that's where it's going to take me. Teaching them that. 2 steps breaks. 1, 2, plant, point, drive, and let's go. All right, getting into some film of them working the technique, working the motor. You see, as we talked about at the line of scrimmage, about 1 to 1.5 yards away. I would call him 1.5 yards away. You can see his eyes down on the hip. He's keying the wide. Oh, that's not the hip. He's keying the wide receiver's hip. You see him based off the wide receiver's tempo, how he came off the line of scrimmage. So I know that was Max because I know your voice from playing with you. But when you talked about asking the tempo of the receiver, like that's not showing me right now that he's trying to burn and go down the field. So the tempo of my motor is not going to be a burning motor tempo. I'm going to base that tempo of my motor or scoot, if he was off, based off the tempo of the receiver. So just as we did in the drill where they came to balance, they stemmed me, he sticked them inside and came back outside. You see him work the motor off the motor. I'm not changing my motor once he give me that stick and move, because I know if you plant right, you cannot go right unless you take that extra step, that left foot in the ground. So I know if he plants right, he got to go left. So you see him motor, he kicks, and then gets into that crossover, which I wasn't teaching in the spring, which I wish I would have did more of. Is now he kicked and crossover vertical. I want him kicking crossover 45, aiming for this top shoulder, which we did a lot of, and we doing a lot of right now in the summer. All right, we motoring, we kicking, and I don't just want to turn and run. You know, everybody call that open the gate. I don't want to do that. If I'm opening the gate, it's because I'm doing the press with my feet right now. I'm doing that press within the first 2 to 2.5 seconds. You taking all this time to try to dance with me at the line of scrimmage. I'm motoring my feet, staying on top. Only thing I would change is my guy to cross over 45, but he did a good job in this rep, motoring, crossovering. And again, now he's in phase, as we talk about in my phase distinction. I'm in phase. So what can I do now? I can turn, look, and lean and become the receiver. Receiver turned his head. I turned my head. He tried to throw a back shoulder ball because he saw me on the bottom hip. And we do a good job going up and attacking the football. Okay, here's another example here of the motor. Again, based off his motor, he just pushing him vertical. So again, guys asking about the tempo of the receiver. This receiver's tempo is more vertical. I know Weave, you asked about being off. So I don't know if this guy wanted to be off, but he seems to be off of the ball. So he's working the motor. Again, it's their choice based off, you know, they're comfortable in the technique. I would peer step if a guy was off, but he's working the motor for himself. He was good at it. So look at the tempo of the receiver. He's pushing vertical down the field. May not be as fast, but he's burning off the line of scrimmage to try to push up the field. My guy's motoring. It's becoming a little bit of a pedal as he go down the field, but I want to motor as he's doing, stay in front. And again, once he sticks, he stuck his foot in the ground. Now I want a 45 kick, punch, crossover run. He did a good job at this. He stuck his foot in the ground. You know, he kicked, he got his hands on and got on top of the route. So this was a really good job by my guy here. Punching his hands, still using his hands, 6 yards down the field, still having educated feet, 6 yards down the field, being comfortable in his motor and being on top of the route. This is a really good job, you know, by him on this. Okay, getting some throwback film of my ship days. This was a really good job of the motor here. Him motoring, and you see him kicking, punching. That's a good job. You see him kicking right here, feet not getting overly close, punching, crossover running, staying on top. And again, he got vertical hips, as we saw on the drill, where my ankles, my head, shoulders, knees, and toes are all on the hip of the receiver. I'm able to transition back downhill. I'm able to transition, continue vertical, and I'm able to transition. If you want to try to close back inside and throw me by, I'm able to transition to make a play as well. So I run that back from the beginning without skipping it. And you see him working the motor, the kick, punch, crossover run, throwing him by and making the play. Another example here, see my guy working the motor, working the kick, punch. And again, I would want more 45 hips, but he's kicking 45, punching 45, and he's on top of the route. So now he's in phase. He's in phase. He even got a little stutter. He's still on top of the route. He got to the bottom hip. So based off our rules, if I'm on the bottom hip, I am not turning around to play the football. He felt comfortable doing that based off his position of the hips. Now, some could argue he could have turned around and played the football because of the tempo of the receiver, but he felt comfortable playing it this way. So I want him to, you know, feel comfortable, play through the hands. And I'd rather him do what he did right here, playing the hands, than going up attacking the football and missing. So this is a good job by my guy here, motoring, kicking, punching, crossover running. Eyes down on the hips. You see his eyes down. It may be a little bit blurry for you guys, but you see his eyes nailed to that hip. He making love to his hip. They laugh when I say that, but I want you to make love to his hip. Like that's your hip. Wherever that hip is going, that's yours. So you see him punching, getting his hand on, receiver swiping his hand down. You know, we still playing through that hip and then eventually playing through the hands. Again, another last one here on that, on the motor. Little false step here, but you see him, he getting stemmed, so he kicking. If we get stemmed, we kicking, punching, and we staying on top. So that's a really good job by him, being physical, motoring, punching, And again, being physical down the field. So it's a good job by my guy here. Some in-game-ish stuff, because obviously I wasn't here during the season. So using the team period rep, you know, for in-game, you see my guy down the bottom, right? Down the bottom, right here. Working the motor. Again, you see him tight motor and based off the receiver tempo, he's giving a walk off his release. He's motoring. He wants to get into it. You see that little kick to the punch with the one-hand punch. The receiver's going down his shoulders. So we should be shooting one. I should be shooting one. He's not going down my frame. So I should be punching one, getting into the crossover. He's on the bottom hip. He's in trail. So he's not going to look back. He's going to play through the hands. And again, this receiver's slowing down and trying to play him, but we playing through the hands. He could have made a play on the ball, but he dropped it. But again, you see him going through the technique, motoring, punching, kicking, crossover running, and staying based off his leverage, where he's turning that head and where he's playing, how he's playing the ball based off of his leverage and position on the receiver. And we'll see it from the end zone shot, the phase 5 from the end zone shot. Again, another game-ish rep, team period. Watch my guy down here, working the motor to the field. And again, I love how his motors are tight. He's cutting the grass based off the receiver tempo. Receiver not trying to burn, so we're not going to burn. We're going to stay patient. We're going to stay collision. What I wish he didn't do is hesitate here, that small hesitation. You know, you got the coach's eye. You can see that small hesitation right there. We would have drove on the ball. We probably would have had a better chance of making a play on this ball, but he made a good play on this ball with the motor techniques. That was a good job by him right there. Okay, again, another retro clip, another good guy working a good clip on a 3x1 single side. You see my guy right here working the motor technique and then doing a good job of playing the hand. So again, watching motor, kick, punch, crossover run. With 2 hands, he's down the frame. He's down his frame, so he punched 2 hands. Now he kicking, punching, getting the crossover run. Again, another intricate point that I love here, and I paused it at a really good point. I didn't mean to do that, but look at his head playing through the hands. We're not turning our eyes back this way and trying to play the football. You see a lot of times on TV or on your film or what have you, when guys turn it the other way to try to play through the hands, it's definitely down here, trying to play through the hands down here, and the ball is over their head while they're turning. He's looking through the chest of receiver and playing through the hands here. I thought this was a great finish and a clip that really that needed to be on there from this guy. So this was a good job, motoring, kicking, punching, crossover run. He's on the bottom hip or in phase, and he's able to play through the hands. Again, looking up top here, getting an inside release. You see the motor, it's a little bit ways away, but you see my guy working the tech up the top. He's getting the motor and the inside release. Good motor there. Again, based off the tempo, getting a little dance. We're going to dance with our feet. We're going to kick, punch, crossover, run, and squeeze to the post safety. Our post safety did a good job here in this clip, reading the QB eyes, getting off his intentions. Should have finished the play, but this was a good job by my corner up top, working that tech. And you see him right here finishing with his hands through. He's not swiping. He's putting his hands in, as you see him do right here. So this is a good job. Again, peer step, seeing it now too. Again, you can't really see it because the distance of the film, but you see him not moving on the snap. He come to balance. We pick up our outside foot. We punch. We should have a good shuffle here because he gave us a come to balance. He stemmed us inside. We should be shuffling. You see him here getting into a shuffle. Now he's getting into a crossover run because he's continuing to declare inside. He's squeezing from the top shoulder. And again, the tighter he gets to the hash, the tighter I'm getting to his A-line, as I call it, and trying to undercut this ball because I'm thinking dig, post, squeeze him to the post safety. So this is a good job here. I wish he would have finished it. If you're going to take a shot, you got to finish. All right, so I wish he would have finished this. But this is a good job on the peer step, shuffle, kick, punch, crossover, run, squeeze, read the A-line, undercut this ball, and go make a play.
Coach Gaines, question. I know you've been there for the spring. What would you say? What was the biggest learning curve, for the guys with your press techniques?
It was for them understanding the patience in the first couple phases. Because a lot of these guys, honestly, man, I've been fortunate that a lot of these guys got a lot of experience under their belt from playing and the outfit that we play. A lot of these guys played as freshmen, like we sub in every series. It was them understanding and being comfortable at the line of scrimmage because they used to work a different technique and stuff. And again, it was good. It was successful for them, but them being patient with different things. Like they was taught one technique and then like, let's just play football. But understanding here, I got one guy that's got in a clip, 5'9", 180. Then I got a 6'2", 200 coming behind him. Everybody can't play the same tech. So trying to put different techniques on guys, and even though it's two different ones, it was a learning curve for them to try to understand having a different mindset on the two different techniques. And again, when to use them, how to use them, which one will be better over this one. So that I think that would be the learning curve, is getting them to be patient with me and trusting me and my different techniques that I'm teaching. So good question.
Gotcha.
Another peer step right here. You see him, peer step, as you see it right here, peer step, shuffle. He got a stem, come back inside, we good. You see the guys getting hyped on the sideline before it even happened. Squeezing that thing down, finishing on the play. Peer step, shuffle, doing a good job. So again, good job by my guy here. Bigger corner. He's not a big motor guy. He loves the peer step. So that's what he fell in love with this spring. But you see the peer step, if you can see it on film, him stepping, the guy came to balance. He stemmed him. We shuffled, keeping our feet square. And again, keeping those feet not too tight in the hips, squeezing, making a play on the football. Another peer step rep. Go through this quick. Again, you see the peer step, him stepping here. That's the peer step, the shuffle, punch, run, get on that bottom hip. And again, if we're going to shoot, we got to win. Getting a peer step, a shuffle, a run on top, getting to that 45. Could be a better finish, but again, I like the phase 1 through 4, which was pretty good. Peer step, shuffle, kick, crossover, run. And again, I wish he would have finished better, but they got coaches too, they got players too. So it's a good job by the receiver finishing this. Seeing the end game, again, outside leverage here for my guy. He's outside leverage. So he's going to take the peer step away from his leverage. So he should be stepping inside at this moment. Stepping inside, you see the peer step, the shuffle, and he got a speed release. So we got a 45 kick and crossover run. But if I get that speed release, I'm going 45 crossover run, aim for that top shoulder. This was a good job by him on this release. And again, aiming for the top shoulder. If I had to bet, if these two was the race, this guy's blowing him out the water all day. He was a player of the year in the conference on offense, led the nation in kickoff return yardage and touchdowns, all this good stuff. He's a lot faster than this guy. But if I take the proper angles to cut off, it really don't matter. I'm taking the proper angle and getting on top. It's not like 4.2 versus 4.7, but it's a little bit of a speed difference. But again, him staying on top of this, running and beating him to the point, got him in that position. He's on the bottom hip, so he's not going to look back to try to play the ball. He's playing through the hands, finished. The guy caught the ball. But again, the post catch, they say it all the time. They send me clips of guys doing it in the NFL. They text me, coach, post catch. So he caught the ball. Ball is caught. He punching through. You see him breaking with that inside hand, him punching through, drop pass. So this is a good job by my guy here. Let's get that.
Hey,
We talk a
Coach.
lot about. Yes, sir.
Coach, can you go back to that last clip and talk about that nickel technique?
Which one? Oh, up top?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me I'm gonna fast forward to that real quick.
Okay, you're good.
Yeah, so that's the off man stuff. I want to talk about the scooch real quick in my last couple minutes. That's off man. Again, guys that know me, anytime you guys want to talk, I know it's a lot of stuff getting into that. So real quick, I'm gonna buzz through this. So you see, as I talked about on the catch or the scooch, just more so catch. So that's me working it. All right. If I'm getting that vertical stem, you see him work the peer step. All right. I load on the ball of my feet. I'm pushing vertical peer step. again, get to that catch point. The reason why that I coach peer step in the slot, and it may be different for people. People may not, think it makes sense to them. But for me, it makes sense because all my slot guys are corners. So when I put the corners in the slot and I want them to peer step, my only teaching for them is getting to the catch point. Getting to the press point. If you at slot and the corner as a corner, I need you to get the press point. So I want to get to 1.5 yards away, and then I'm playing normal press technique. Whether it's peer step, it's all peer step in that because I'm not motoring. So I want to get them to get to a catch point or get to a press point, and now we playing peer step. So you see the peer step, the shuffle, the punch, all the same shit. And for him, he's a corner. He's our starting corner, but he plays in the slot often. So for him, me teaching him the peer step, if guys follow me on Instagram, you see me post and be like, oh, damn, coach, that made a lot of sense. Well, yeah, because I just want you to catch. Whether I get a stem, I need to move my feet to get to a press point, and then I'm working my catch set. I'm working my press set. So you see him here, working it right here, working the catch. Activate the feet. You see in the beginning, he peer step. Peer step, feet activated. Boom, I'm ready to play catch. I'm trailing on the bottom hip on that deep over route. And again, now I'm making the quarterback, throw a good ball. So again, I would want him step more in front of this. Again, I don't want to make contact with my feet crossed. All right, but I love how he was patient and diligent on shooting his hands and doing all those things. And again, Max, as you asked, look at his tempo, the receiver tempo. He ain't trying to run by me. I know he's not trying to run by me. So if I was working a scoot, I'm not scooting too fast. But even in catch, I know he's not trying to run by me, so I'm thinking of stepping in front and getting my hands on. Same thing here. This was a good rep. See him activate his feet on the peer step. Feet activated, punch him. Getting into it. So it was a great catch by a receiver, but I love the whole catch point and everything by the slot. Punch, good. Stay on the bottom hip. It's a long rep. It's one-on-ones, so it kind of piss me off at times. But one-on-ones, he playing for about 5 seconds, quarterback patting the football. We done already strapped you, buddy. They going the other way. But this was a good job by him being patient, feet activated, not stepping off the cliff too much, punching his hands without his feet crossed, a little bit leaned inside, and then taking where he wanted him to go, then his eyes went back to the quarterback, bad eyes. But this was good collision at the catch point. And good finish by our guy. Seeing it up top in the slot, right here, my guy in the slot. Again, that's the corner that we watched. He's at corner, but because we in our nickel sub package, he's in the slot. So you see him catching at about 5 here, activating his feet, punching, running. He on the bottom hip, so he's going to play through the hands. Good job by him. Punching him. Well, he could have been a little bit more violent on the punch. This was a no pads day, but could have been a little bit more violent on the punch and step in front, but good job by him.
Hey, Coach Gaines, I see that they all peer step at different time points, right? So when do you teach them to activate the peer step?
Yeah, so if he's burning off the line of scrimmage, it got to be now because I don't want to peer step where he's burning down the field and then he gets to me and I peer step and then now I got the right foot in the ground trying to go right. So that's something big that, you got to key on is I don't want to have the foot in the ground at the direction I want to go. So if I'm outside leverage, let's say we this guy here and I'm outside leverage and I peer step with this foot, once he gets to the press point, well, guess what? He's trying to go this way. I got this foot in the ground. So what do I got to do? I got to step this foot in the ground. He's already this way. And now I'm behind. So as you saw on, a previous clip, you see guys activate their feet based off of the tempo of the guy as well, of the receiver as well. Again, right here in the slot, right here on the hash, you see him activating his feet, just getting on the ball, punching. Again, he was this is his first time playing in the slot was this spring. So again, I want him to punch and have a little bit more square hips, but he punching his hands, being patient there. And again, the guy's not burning, trying to run by him. So we don't need to geek out and freak ourselves out, but I want to punch, stay on top of this, squeeze him to the post safety. And we on top of it. So this was a solid job by him. Last one on the catch. You see my guy on the hash. See him peer step right now. He pierced stepped, he shuffled, he kicked, punched, and run on the box fade. Good job, make him throw a good ball. So it's good feet. He didn't leave that, was that the 36-yard line or whatever that is, the 34-yard line. He didn't leave that. Pierce step, shuffle, punched. Yeah, he could have been more physical. Probably was day 2. We still don't have on pad. So guys still trying to get comfortable with my stuff. But I like how he executing what I'm teaching on the board and putting it in a team game period. Then seeing it from outside leverage in the slot coming down. Active feet. See the receiver hips going 45. So my hips going 45. Watch the guy in the slot right here. Watch him in the slot. Watch him work that tech. Active feet punching. Pushing him to the post safety. Based off divider rules. He wants to run a corner. We on the bottom of the hip. That was a good job. And you still a little pierce that rep down the bottom on the 40. You see him work, a little motor rep down here on the bottom as well. But it's a good job by him working that. And game rep, working the catch. Again, my guy here on the hash. Again, my rule, because remember, I said 5 to 7. But if you pay attention to the film, what is it down the distance? It's about 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3. So you see my guy look at the line of scrimmage, and our DB's assistant like, yeah, move your ass up. You see the line of scrimmage, move up. So he moved up, heels at the line of scrimmage, toes at the line of scrimmage, working that. And again, I don't like the contact with my feet crossed, but he was physical on the contact and taking where you want him to go. So this is a good job by him. Punching, 3rd down, let's do it, let's run. You see him working those feet, being physical, playing through the hands. He's on the bottom hip. He's in the trail position. Okay, we finished. So it was a good job. And the scooch real quick, taking the scooch. So look at the wide receiver tempo, scoot, scoot, catch. I'm at the catch point now. Now I'm playing catch. Small scoots. Doing a good job. So you see the difference is I'm catching it at the top of the break. There's no more stemming at the top of this break. There's no more dancing at the top of this. You got to either continue to go vertical, you got to go out, or you got to go in. Right? So based off your hip region pointing this way. So I can cancel out this angle, I can cancel out this angle, and let's be ready to drive that. And I still got hands at the top. So that was a good job. Playing through the hands as well from the bottom, from the top shoulder. Again, scooch again in the slot, scooch it, catch. So good job. Burn and scooch, catch. We in a good spot now. So Max, again, based off your question of the tempos of the scoop, this receiver pushing vertical down the field, watch his tempo of the scoop. He trusts himself, still slow, scooch, scooch, catch. And now he just working the same catch technique. Punch, and I'm good. Stand on that bottom hip. I'm on the bottom hip, so I'm going to play through the hands. That was a good job.
Yeah, so I guess to piggyback off that, like the only situation where it would really just be, hey, I got to get to my angle is if they're, I don't know, say you're playing that scooch and he's running like a straight wheel route or something like that.
Yeah. So that's good. So the way I teach it, and the way, we could talk about it one-on-one, but it's going to be based off release and teaching it like a corner. Like if I'm getting this and he's going down my shoulder, like I'm not ready to kick and crossover. But if I get a box fade where I'm going 1, 2, 3 and I'm sticking for the bottom of the numbers, well, you try to run away from me. So I'm going to be scooch, and I got a damn run.
Right.
Because it's like a speed release for a corner. Like I don't have the time to get my hands on. So he pushed down the field. He aimed for the bottom of the numbers while I'm scooching, and I'm aiming for that top shoulder foot on the box fade.
Right.
So that's a good question. The coaching point is, if you want to compare it to the releases of a corner, if he's down my frame, I shoot 2 like this guy's doing. If he's running outside my shoulder, well, I'm going to kick and punch with one hand. Or if he's running away from me on a box fade, well, I got to kick and crossover and go and beat him at the point and beat him at that box fade point.
And Coach, I got a question about the scoots.
What's up?
So I see with the catch technique and the scooch, it requires the same amount of patience. But what would you say is the difference when you coach both the techniques?
For me, like I said, at the catch point, if I'm just playing normal catch, there's a lot more things you can do. And again, it's a small point. Like people may say, gains, you're talking about 2-3 yards. Well, yeah, if I'm lined up at 4 if I'm lined up from 5 from the receiver, He can do a little bit more with stemming me, stacking me, and then now still having his route tree. He can stem me, stack me, and still had a route tree. When I'm catching him at 9 to 10, like right now I'm at 9 yards from the line of scrimmage, 8.5 yards from the line of scrimmage. Well, you don't got time to be stemming me, stacking me, and then still have your route tree once you're already at 9, 10, 8, 9, 10 yards because you're already at the top of your route. So here he's running the dig. He ran the dig at damn 8 yards. Well, yeah, because I'm at the top of the break where you was trying to continue to push vertical at 10 and break. And if he running 10 from, where he is, then this is his break point right here at 10. And look where we caught him at once we scooted. We caught him at his break point. So the difference in the two is when I'm playing the catch, the route tree is not different, but the different moves and him stacking me is different once I'm in the scooch and then once I'm in the catch, because I can get stacked just like a corner. You can get stemmed outside, he can stack you and then still have a different route tree. But when I'm playing off man, he has to get to the top of the break and then try to beat me and knock me off my stem at the top of the route rather than within the route. Does that make sense?
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. I skipped that when we saw a bunch of scooches. Get another scooch rep. Scooch, catch, punch him. This is a great catch by my guy here. But 2 scoots, a catch, a punch, a run. So here you go, Max. 2 scoots. He box fade. He started the crossover run and the punch. So you see him. The guy took 1, 2, 3 stick on the box fade. Well, we took our scooch, and we got a crossover run. Ain't no more catch. You got to get into that crossover run and go get it. But that was a great catch by my guy right there. And then you see it here at Merrimack. 2 scoots, catch, boom, good. Box fade, here we go. Scooch, catch, boom, punch, run. Stand on the bottom hip. I'm playing through the hands. This is a great job. And we using my boy Sammy the sideline. He don't got no other name because I'm a Salisbury Sammy the Seagull guy. So the sideline ain't got no other name besides Sammy. So you see my guy working the scooch, catch it, getting ready to catch it. He sees the stem to a box fade. Remember, if his hips is 45, my hips got to be 45, ready to cross over, punch, and run. So it's a good job by my guy, D. Houston, right here. Good physical punch. Watch the knockback of the punch. When we talk about the punch, I'm not just putting my hands on him. Watch the knockback of his head. I want to be physical and get that kick and that punch and that run. Wide him out to the sideline. This was spring game. It's a good job. Another scooch, catch. This was first day he was doing it. So guys going to do this in the beginning where they almost pedaling. Like you see he almost like was pedaling and then got into a catch. Feet was hella active. This the same guy, probably day 1 right here and then day 15 right here. He looked a lot more comfortable, a lot more patient in it. But this was a good job by him right here, working that box fade, release, and then going, stand on that bottom hip and plant it. Seeing it in game. So we saw the 2 1-on-1s. Watch him in game. Same kid here. Lined up 5 yards. Yeah, he saw the receiver not burning, so his scoop was 1. He moved his feet, got into a catch, and he was chilling. It's a good job. On a sail route. Good job by him. And then last one, if I got this time, it's 3 clips of red zone technique, teaching that clear step to where if I'm in the red zone, it's similar to the pier step, but it's always an inside step. And I'm playing everything from the bottom hip. I want to play all fade. I want to play fade from the bottom hip because if I get the outside release, I'm getting fade. I'm getting that, comeback. I'm thinking that comeback. And again, I want to play it from the bottom hip so I can now break and undercut. But you see my guy right here on the slant. If it's a slant, it should be closed all day. So you watch him pick up that inside foot first, staying inside. Look how patient he is. Boom, we good. So you see him clear step, staying inside, hands never dropped, hands stay up, punching, we good. Up top. Again, watch his inside foot step first. That's the clear step. Inside foot step, play it from the bottom hip. We become the receiver. Play through the hands. That's a good job of him looking through the receiver here. He's looking through the receiver to go get the football. 5'9" versus 6'3", 6'4". Good job by him playing that. Would have been a hell of a catch if he caught it, but It's a good job. Maybe a penalty. I personally gave him a PI when I did my SGF. I know they got PFF, but I got SGF where I do my own statisticals. So I gave him a PI, but I thought it was good technique here with the clear step to show what we're doing. And you see my guy down the bottom do the same thing. See his punch inside. Now he's ready to play on the bottom hip. It's a good job by him too. Last clip on this. Again, same guy right here, or different guy right here working the clear step. He overemphasized it. See the inside foot step, boom. Now we playing normal press rules while I'm shuffling and kicking, trying to stay on that inside hand. And you see him punch 2 hands because he went down the frame. Perfect coaching point. He's down my frame. I shoot 2. I punch him. I'm running. I'm playing on the bottom hip. I play through the hands. No PI. Good job. Again, we were just working this drill before this period. So it's a good job of us executing. A good ball too. You can see it from this end zone shot of him playing through the hands. Good job. And again, he did not swipe at the football. That's what I love. He didn't swipe at the football. He put his hand in. He got his hand on the ball. And then, yeah, we swiped down. But we put our hand in to punch the pocket. If I can pause it. Punch in the pocket. That's the pocket. Our hand is in the pocket. We're doing a good job here. Again, this is a 5'8", 5'9" receiver versus a 6'2", 6'3" receiver. No excuses. Good job playing through the hands on that. I know that was a lot, fellas. That's all I got. I appreciate you guys. If y'all got any questions or Pat, you got anything for me to do or say?
Well, one thing before we get to questions, what's the best way to reach out to you if anybody has questions after the fact?
So yeah, my phone. I put my phone number in the chat. Forgot to put that on the slide because I wanted to get to it.
Well, instead of that, because we don't share the chat, can you either say your number if you want that out publicly to anybody?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, or Twitter handle or email, whatever. You say whatever you want to say. Yeah,
so my Twitter is Coach Gaines _1 GAINES. Don't forget the E. Coach GAINES _1. My phone number is 410-303-4480. It's 410-303-4480. And if any guys told their people, like I know I got some of my boys in here, you can give my number to your people if you want to. I know guys got my number, but appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Any questions before we dip? The recording will be up tomorrow too for anyone else who wants to rewatch. Any questions? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Coach, great stuff tonight. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man.